The United States has banned using cluster bombs. Ottawa said on Saturday that Canada opposes the use of missiles. Washington has promised Ukraine to attack Russian forces, and reiterated its commitment to the Oslo agreements that ban weapons of conflict. USA said on Friday it will provide a wide range of bombs to Kyiv as part of a new $800 million security plan that will bring security to the United States. Military aid has exceeded $40 billion since Russia invaded Ukraine in February 2022. Ukraine welcomed the U.S. decision, saying that it would support the independence of Ukrainian territory, but promised not to use weapons in fraternal Russia. Rockets usually launch a series of small bombs that can wreak havoc in multiple areas. Documents that are not destroyed can remain dangerous for years after the conflict is over. The Canadian government said in a statement, "We do not support the use of rockets and are committed to eliminating the impact of cluster rockets on civilians, especially children." United States, Germany, and another friend of the United States. UN Secretary-General Antonio Guterres opposed the U.S. sending missiles to Ukraine. Convention on Cluster Munitions, opened for signature in Oslo in 2008, prohibits the use of these bombs. Although more than 100 countries have signed the treaty banning the production, stockpiling, use and transfer of weapons, Russia, Ukraine and the United States have not yet signed. Canada is bound by the Constitution, and we are fulfilling our obligations under the Constitution and support its worldwide adoption, the government said in a statement. Prime Minister Justin Trudeau's Liberal government has been one of Ukraine's most vocal supporters, pledging billions of dollars in financial, military, humanitarian, and other aid over the years. Article. After months of debate, the United States will send a batch of bombs to Ukraine that has been banned by more than 100 countries. Chapter. After months of debate, National Security Advisor Jack Sullivan confirmed on Friday that the U.S. will send bombs to Ukraine as part of a new package of military teams to discuss whether to supply Kyiv with weapons of conflict, banned by more than 100 countries, including major U.S. organizations. "I'm not going to stand here and say it's easy," Sullivan told reporters. "This is a tough decision. It's a decision that's left to us. It's a decision we have to take into account the danger to the public." Putting it all together, the national security team agreed, and President Biden worked with The Guardian. The decision to move forward with that idea, ultimately members of Congress, taken in consultation with friends and partners, including. Authorities told CNN that President Joe Biden agreed to replace the ammo this week. CNN first reported last week that the administration was considering the move as Ukrainian forces struggled to make significant gains in their offensive against Russia. Throughout the conflict, in the face of intense lobbying, the U.S. gradually accepted Kyiv's demands for more weapons, including Patriot missile systems and modern metal-imprinted tanks. But the decision to send the missiles marked a turning point when the Biden administration agreed to send weapons that many countries agree have no place in modern warfare. In an interview with CNN's Fareed Zakaria on Friday, Biden said sending missiles to Ukraine was a difficult decision in the first place, but was eventually persuaded to send in the gunfight because Kyiv needed Russian ammunition in counterattack. "It was a difficult decision for me. By the way, "I talked about this with our friends, and I talked to my friends above," said Biden. The Ukrainians have run out of ammo. According to the Pentagon, the ammunition will be compatible with the U.S.-supplied 155mm howitzer, which was one of the main artillery pieces for Ukraine to regain its territory last year. To Ukraine, China said the U.S. would provide 155mm artillery shells including PICM, or dual-purpose enhanced conventional munitions, the type of missile currently in the U.S. inventory. Undersecretary for Policy at the Ministry of Defense Dr. Colin Carr told reporters on Friday that Ukraine has written proof that it will not use rockets in civilized cities and carefully calculate where to use the rockets. Risk to civilians. Widespread fireworks, small boulders that will not explode on impact and pose no long-term risk to anyone who encounters them. They are like landmines. More than 100 countries, including the UK, France, and Germany, declared these missiles under the Cluster Munition Convention, but the US and Ukraine did not sign the ban. SZ said on Friday, but declined to comment on the US decision to do so. "I should not comment on the actions of countries that have not signed the treaty: China, Russia, Ukraine, and the United States." Human rights defenders condemn this movement. The transfer of these weapons will cause long-term suffering to civilians and will be internationally condemned for their use, Human Rights Watch said in a report Thursday. Pentagon Press Secretary Org Brig. Patrick Ryder said on Thursday. A defense attorney said Biden would apply under Section 614 of the Foreign Aid Act to waive those restrictions, which allows the president to grant foreign aid without export restrictions when it has an impact on U.S. national security. The 2-dud ratio is the frequency of detonation at which small bombs with explosives scattered throughout the area fail to detonate, which then causes long-term risks to the population. A higher null value means that more explosive bombs do not explode on impact. Ryder said Russia is using missiles with a hit rate of up to 40%. Carr reiterated on Friday that the Pentagon will not procure ammunition with residual content of more than 2.35%, a value confirmed by 5 Department of Defense tests in 1998 and 2020. Since last year, Ukrainian officials have been pressuring the United States to supply ammunition, arguing that it will provide more ammunition for Western-supplied artillery and rockets and will help narrow Russia's numerical advantage in artillery. Biden initially refused. Authorities told CNN Biden initially refused, given how many countries worldwide have banned the guns. But changes in the conflict in Ukraine over the past 3 weeks have caused U.S. officials to reconsider reality, and the Pentagon has said that Biden has to supply Ukraine, at least temporarily, until more missiles can be supplied and needed. Agree on return, said officials. Officials and military analysts said it was unclear how much of Ukraine's daily use of ammunition would be safe without explosives if the attack were to occur. Biden eventually agreed with his assessments. A defense attorney told CNN on Saturday more about how the U.S. military is testing missiles the Biden administration plans to send to Ukraine to make sure they have a 2.35% or lower defect rate. Defense officials said the missiles were last tested with a real fire, rather than simulation or virtual tests by the Yuma Proving Ground police personnel in Arizona in 2020. During the test, the team tried to take samples of a group and analyzed and recorded the number of unexploded bombs, the official said. The types of missiles the U.S. plans to deploy are the M864 and M483A1 models, which were last tested in 2020 and 2017, according to the official. The lawyer said, "We left 40 matches from each of the 11 tests. A lot is essentially a collection of missiles designated by personnel at the U.S. Army's Joint Ordnance Command Storage Facility. The missiles have been tested in various ways, including air blast and ground point blast, and at various distances of 15 to 30 miles, he said. There are many ways to calculate faults, including image tracking systems, acoustic systems, and manual inspection, said the official. Critics questioned the military's testing methods, including whether the tests were conducted under ideal conditions or in different climates and terrains that could affect response. The defense minister did not say whether the missiles were tested under different conditions. Russian ambassador to Belarus, Boris Gryzlov, said the U.S. decision was desperate. Washington is considering the possibility of sending missiles to Ukraine as part of continued assistance to the Kyiv government. The issue has been discussed since spring. Now, the hawks in the West have realized that the attack did not go as many Ukrainian soldiers had planned. They're doing everything. Actually, it's a disappointing feeling, said Gryzlov.